Ariola through the traffic, good save, the rebound is a goal! Second of the night from Christian Pulisic. Is that the goal that sends them to Soldier Field against Mexico?
That sly little smile from Christian Pulisic. Here are the scenes here at the MLS Digital Studios. What's about to happen, Charlie? Yeah, the ball's about to go in the back of the net for the U.S. No celebration there. Here we are, Club and Country, from the AT&T MLS Studios in Midtown Manhattan. 16 teams started this journey in the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Only 2 remain. That's the U.S. and Mexico. 2 goals for Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie with his second goal in 2 games, a 3-1 win for Greg Berhalter and the U.S. On to the final that we all were dreaming of. That is, if you are a Mexico or U.S. fan. Jamaica almost made it to their 3rd final in a row. They tested the U.S. at times, but just did not have enough quality. I'm Andrew Wiebe. This is Charlie Davies, Bobby Warshaw, and Matt Doyle. Sunday, an epic day for soccer, guys. Copa America, Gold Cup, the biggest of them all. The Women's World Cup final goes down that day, and we have another American team in that one. But right now we're talking Gold Cup. And before we hit the highlights, let's just start with the obvious. U.S.-Mexico, Charlie, for the first time in the Gold Cup final since 2011. Don't tell me these teams always fight for this one. This is the match we wanted.
This is the match we wanted, and I am so excited because I knew it was going to happen. And now the U.S. are ready to win the Gold Cup. This team is going to beat Mexico. They're right for the taking, and I know it, and I'm excited. And then guess what? Everybody's believing in the program again. The hype is here. It's what we wanted, and they are who we thought they were.
Wow. Yes, Charlie. Yes. Bobby, you going to be on that level, or you going to be a little more even-keeled?
No, I think Charlie
here?
nailed it, right? This is the opportunity that this team, that Greg Berhalter needed to be on this stage against the arch nemesis and to show that they can go toe-to-toe and best Mexico. It's going to be a challenge, but this is exactly the challenge and opportunity that this program needed right now.
Yeah, there's no argument with that. I'm not at Charlie's level yet. I'm not about to guarantee a win, but it's interesting here because the U.S. and Mexico both are coming into this game looking about like 85% of the way there. It's actually maybe even a little less than that for Mexico. I think both teams should be confident. I also think both teams should be incredibly nervous because things could go really, really wrong in this sort of game. We've seen it in the past on both sides. I'm looking forward to Sunday.
Mexico, by the skin of their teeth against Costa Rica and Haiti, got to this point. The U.S. have allowed just 1 goal all tournament, 15 scored. Jamaica, that's a familiar opponent. The last 2 Gold Cups, it's been a mixed bag. In 2017, they beat Jamaica in the final. In 2015, Jamaica won the semifinal match by a 2-1 scoreline. But a great start for the U.S. The first 16 minutes were just incredible, Doyle. They came out swinging.
They did, and so much of it revolved around Jozy Altidore's ability to occupy the Jamaican center backs, to be in the right spots. He sort of learned the choreography that Greg Berhalter wants, and to conduct the game with his hold-up play. The difference between Jozy Altidore and Gyasi Zardes is immense, and it was on display, especially in that first 15 minutes.
Christian Pulisic hits the post. Andre Blake, we know how good he is. He would have a tough moment later, but then it was lightning time, Bobby. A 90-minute delay, just sitting around twiddling our thumbs while they tried to stay warm in the locker room. And when they came out, Jamaica looked better.
They did. It was the best thing that could have happened to Jamaica because the U.S. were all over them, all over Jamaica to start the game. But Andrew, this just felt good to watch. It was undoubtedly the best performance the U.S. team has had since the Trinidad loss a couple years ago. They both played well and they found a way to get the result. It just, in its simplest terms, it felt good to watch this team play soccer.
And I was surprised that Blake spilled that right there, but Christian Pulisic doesn't care. That gets the U.S. up 2-0. And then it gets a little nerve-wracking. We saw Shamar Nicholson do his thing against the U.S. in that friendly, where here he is again, popping up with the header. But in the end, Christian Pulisic would help make the difference. He made the run, he gets the rebound, he puts it in the back of the net in the 87th minute. 3-1 U.S. Moving on to the final, their second in a row, trying to go back-to-back. Soldier Field will be the site of the Gold Cup final, Sunday, July 7th. A huge day for soccer. As I said, these two countries have met 5 times in Gold Cup finals, the U.S. and Mexico. Mexico Won 4 of them. The only time the U.S. has won was in 2007. You'll remember that game for the goal that Benny Feilhaber scored. Look, what do we take away from this? This game right here against Jamaica. Before we get to Mexico in a tweet format, Charlie, I'm not going to give you 5 minutes here.
Okay.
Give me the headline.
The headline is Josie's back, which changes the dynamic of this team immensely. With his movement, his ability to hold up the ball, his ability to move into space and drag defenders out, and to turn and play other guys in. He is how this team will move forward. And it gives a lot of space to Christian Pulisic. And when he was on the ball today, he was magical. He figured out, how can I engage my other teammates and how can I capitalize on my opportunities?
This is the baseline for me. This is the bar and the standard of accountability for this team, for Christian Pulisic's performances, for Weston McKennie's performances, for Aaron Long, for Matt Miazga. This is what we should expect, this or better, in every game moving forward. It might not be achievable, but I think collectively this is the quality of soccer that fans and media should expect from these players and from this team on a regular basis.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The talent is there. I do think that the previous month, we've been looking at a team that's been trying to learn the dance steps. A team that is trying to play the way that Greg Berhalter has, he very specifically wants them to play a certain way. I think at times they haven't had the personnel to do it, but with Josie out there, they do. They're closer to it anyway, so they look the part a little bit more.
It's a process, right? We all knew that it's the first Gold Cup for Greg Berhalter. It's the first time that he's got the whole group here as a collective. They were going to learn as they go, and they have. They've kind of improved on their performances. They've figured out, okay, once we have the whole group together, this is what it looks like. And this is a quality Jamaican team. This is one of the best Jamaican teams that I've ever seen. And now they have this big victory going into a Mexico team that has heavy legs, having to go to 2 full-time games with extra time. This team is ready to beat Mexico. And what will that do for Greg Berhalter and this group of players? Confidence. They know we can claim CONCACAF again. And this is what this Gold Cup final will be all about.
Do you think that the progression with this team, we do think that there are differences now from 2, 3, 4 games ago. Is it part of the process and the way they're moving and the way they're coordinating their actions together, or is it an adjustment from Greg Berhalter saying what I was doing was too complicated and we need to do some simpler actions, the ones they're more used to at the club level?
I think it's a little bit of both. Greg's very cerebral. He's going to watch and study these games. He's going to study the opponents. He's going to figure out, what do I need to do a little bit better and how can I set up these guys to succeed? And one big factor of that is having Josie up top, right? Zardes, all due credit, he understands what Greg wants, but he's not the player that is needed for this to really go, to really move. You need someone with experience and somebody who can get on the ball, who can drop deep into midfield, who can create space for others. That's what Josie provides.
It always comes back to the striker with you, Charles. Always comes to the number 9, man.
We'll talk about left backs later, of course, folks. Look, let's talk about that fast start. The goal, it was a brilliant little piece of attacking play, a combination play. And look, these are the sort of moments that you want to see from the U.S. Get your fullback high. That's what led to the goal. Here's Michael Bradley with the ping. Boom. Finds Reggie Cannon one time into the box. Debate the touch by Josie all you want, but there's the late run from Weston McKennie. What did you see in these first 16 minutes that excited you? Because this is, I think, in some parts, the best of what we want to see, at least so far from the U.S. national team.
I thought they were a little bit freer with their movement. And look, we've said the name Josie Altidore 1,000 times already. We're 5 minutes into the show, but you can be a little bit freer with your movement. You could push your right back all the way up. You could push your central midfielder all the way into the box, as you saw Weston McKennie do on the goal, if you know that your center forward can hang on to the ball. And not just hang on to the ball, but actually do something with it, which Josie did repeatedly. And I thought, the first 3 minutes, we staggered Jamaica. We landed, a right cross and a left hook and all, and we had them back on the ropes because everybody was buzzing off of his movement. And the big thing was with Josie coming back, Christian Pulisic gets to vacate central midfield. He gets to go out to the wing. He and Ariola together create an overload, and Jamaica had no idea what to do with that. We could have been up 3-0 inside of 8 minutes because Josie checking back, brings a defense with him, Pulisic goes wide, and when he's out there, he's just devastating, and he was.
And you got to take into account that Michael Bradley had time on the ball. Yep. When Michael Bradley has time on the ball, he's going to pick you apart with his pinpoint accuracy, and those wingers know how to make those runs, and he's going to find them. And he was hitting them on a dime, and that opens up the game. And Jamaica realized after that break, oh boy, we got to close him down. We can't allow Michael Bradley to just sit on the ball and dictate the tempo.
Yeah, they literally came out of the weather break man-marking Michael Bradley, and they were doing something close to man-marking with Weston McKennie as well, because those two guys acting as a double pivot just completely opened Jamaica up for the first 15 minutes. It was actually a very good tactical adjustment from Theodore Whitmore, and it was, an act of God on behalf of Jamaica's part to keep them in the game, because if it kept going like it had for the first 15 minutes, this thing would have been over inside half an hour.
Question, Bobby.
Okay.
Does this performance that Christian Pulisic gave tonight solidify him as a starter going forward as he played in the role that he was in tonight?
You're going to do this?
Yeah.
We're doing this.
Yeah. I want to know what you thought of his performance.
Here's what I will say. This, to me, was the best performance he's put in since the Panama qualifier when the U.S. won 4-0. This was a complete performance. It wasn't just 2 or 3 good moments. And the number of times I've had people tweet at me, the number of goals and assists he's had with the national team, I know that. That was taken into account with the original statement. But there's still more, and this is somewhat of a silly statement, but there's still more than providing goals and assists. There's a general run of play, and that's where I felt that Christian Pulisic could and needed to offer more. For me, this was the best performance he's put in terms of keeping the ball, in terms of his transition actions, his defensive movements, doing more than that 2 or 3 seconds in and around the goal. So yeah, Charlie, this was a step forward for him, and I thought that he was undoubtedly better tonight than he had been in the previous
So I
games.
think that comes out of the context of having this system in place and having, frankly, teammates in place who understand the system and have all these reps together. So I think that while I understand what you're saying, like I tweeted it as well, like Christian Pulisic needs to play better. Mm-hmm. I think I tweeted it against Guyana or maybe even the first half of Trinidad. But like, all of these, like, none of this happens in a vacuum. And that's the thing, like, as fans, even as pundits, like, we get impatient for things to happen all at once. And this Gold Cup is a good reminder that it doesn't always work that way. Like, things take time to come together. And I do think long term, to Bobby's point, is Christian Pulisic better when the game runs through him? Or is he better when he's off to the side as like a plus alpha or a force magnifier, where somebody else is putting their foot on the ball and dictating what happens where? Well, right now, I think he's better as a plus alpha. I think he's better off to the side, focus on everybody else, and then suddenly you're releasing Christian Pulisic to annihilate guys. But with the way that the system works, he has to spend 2/3 of the game in central midfield being the man. And it's tough. At times it has been too tough for him. Tonight it wasn't.
How much, time does a player need at 20? And you see his stats, 13 goals, 10 assists in just 30 games to the national team, to kind of grow into this big role that Greg Berhalter and the American fan base is asking of Christian Pulisic?
It takes time. I mean, the international game is completely different than club, and he's changing positions. So the transition from outside on the club level to now the game's a little bit faster, and you're in the middle of the park with guys from the midfield and behind you, the defenders are all closing you down. So that space that you normally operate in is not there. So figuring out that, plus a new system, plus a new coach, plus new teammates, it takes a lot of time and effort to figure that out. And you frankly don't have that when you are with the national team, because it's really sporadic. It's a week here, or it's a week here. Gold Cup, you get 3 weeks, that's great. But then you go back to your club and you don't see your national team for a month and a half. So it's a difficult transition, but he's handled it well.
Force magnifiers, speaking of, Josie Altidore, Christian Pulisic, those two go together really, really well. We've talked a lot about how space and combination play can open them up. Matt, you have a little breakdown for us to explain the difference here between Josie and Gyasi.
Yeah, well, Gyasi Zardes was on this team because he understands the choreography that Greg Berhalter wants. And you see here, as soon as Michael Bradley releases this pass, Gyasi's busting for the 6-yard box because he knows what the next pass is. Josie takes a little bit longer. You can see him, he doesn't actually start his run until the ball's already over his head. Therefore, the center back beats him to the ball. That was the Panama game. Well, you can see Josie's upset. This night, it's not the exact same play, but he understands. Ball from central midfield to the wing, to the overlapping fullback, get goal side of your defender. Whether or not the touch was intentional, the point is he was in the right spot at the right time tonight. If you're looking for progress from the Panama game, from the end of the group stage to the semifinals, to this knockout round, there it is with Josie Altidor's movement. If you want to see what Greg Berhalter's trying to accomplish with this very complex system, less complex than maybe it was a month ago, but still pretty complex system. There it is. Like that, it's right there in the highlight. You can see it happen.
Which comes with match fitness, because Josie wasn't really match fit. You lack a little bit of the in-game nuances when you're not on the field. And so we're seeing a progression with Josie as he gets more match fit. Now the movement comes back, and now the offense can feed off that.
And now he's a little bit rested because he only played 56 minutes in this game. Jesse Zardes came on for the last half hour or so to help finish things off for the U.S. Fresh legs, defensive, puts him running in, make sure you seal this victory. There is
he did the opposite of that. Look, Jossie, he's had some good games. Tonight was not one of them. I understand why Greg Berhalter made the change to get Josie off, because he wanted to preserve his hamstrings for the final. They were up 2-0 at that point and cruising. But Josie's inability to, first of all, put away the chance that he had, pretty golden opportunity, and then the giveaway that led to the goal, that was frustrating to see. And it's like just that one change brought the level down for the entire U.S. team, because they were no longer able to play through their center forward.
Definitely dilemma. I just want to go back to that goal. We have to make the point. The fact that they scored 3 goals in the exact same pattern is the stuff that the best teams in the world do. It reminds me of watching Barcelona with Dani Alves, with Xavi playing a ball, Dani Alves running as if the winger, the forward goes in. If we're going to talk about that goal, we have to talk about 3 goals, not just the movement. 3 goals came from the exact same action.
So not just Josie, the changes for Greg Berhalter in this match. He went and changed on the back line to Reggie Cannon at right back and Matt Miazga for Walker Zimmerman at center back. We had some questions about how that might work. At a semifinal level, switching it up for a defense that hadn't given up a goal all tournament long. How did it work out?
It worked out. They got the victory. They won. So what I was impressed with was Jordan Morris finding a way to impact the game from the wing. He did that. He came off early as well. Is there a possibility that we see him in the final against Mexico? Yeah, there is. I mean, Tyler Boyd would have fresh legs, and you know what you get from him against the Mexico side that, probably going to have the majority of possession, right? So counterattack, that's important when playing against Mexico. Jordan Morris has the pace. He can get up and down. After tonight's performance, I'd feel very confident and comfortable with seeing Jordan Morris out there again.
We talked about this a little bit in the pregame show. Why Jordan Morris? What does he offer? Well, if you think of the field as a big grid with all these little half spaces in it, Tyler Boyd would occupy this same space that Josie Altidore would. Because I know, and we've talked about this before, I know Josie Altidore is nominally a number 9. He is nominally a center striker. But when Josie is feeling his most natural, when he's really in his flow, he's dropping back and he's doing much more than a generic center striker. When he drops, you have to have someone to take that space. Jordan Morris does that very well. He loves to run behind. He loves to use his pace, not to go 1v1, but to take that direct action toward goal. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that more in the future. Tyler Boyd might be the superior player in multiple ways, but Jordan Morris offers the one thing that complements Josie Altidore when he's a striker.
I'm going to guide you back to the back line. You guys took what I asked and just took it off and
Strikers.
running straight to
always
Jordan
sends
Morris.
us to the striker. It's
Would
his
you
fault.
stick, if you're Greg Berhalter, with this lineup on the back line, or would you go back to Walker Zimmerman and Nick Lima?
Reggie Cannon made a real strong argument tonight. Not only because, we saw it in the highlights. He was getting up into the box and doing stuff with it the entire game, which was great to see. But so often, he was left on an island. Like if you look at the U.S. shape, Tim Ream was getting a lot of help at left back. Reggie Cannon was not.
Deservedly so.
Yeah. So Reggie Cannon at right back, holding that down. This is a good choice to have, because I don't think Nick Lima's done anything to lose the job. Maybe it is time to move Lima out to left back to see if he can anchor that spot and let Reggie Cannon go at right back. Matt Miazga made a pretty good argument right up until the goal, in which case, If you're center back and it's right up until the goal, then it's not a great argument. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked confident. He looked mobile, which he doesn't often do against pretty athletic teams, but he did in this one. And then he just got caught 2 yards off his man, and suddenly it's 2-1, and the U.S. are panicking a little bit. I think you probably end up going with Walker Zimmerman in the final.
I didn't expect you to say that.
I straight up think Walker Zimmerman is better right now. I think that Walker Zimmerman's just a better defender right now than Matt Miazga.
If you bring Matt Miazga in the semifinal and you win, and yes, that play on the goal was poor, but if you win that game, you have to go with the same center back pairing in the final that you played in the semi. I don't disagree that Walker Zimmerman is a superior player right now, but I would be very surprised if Greg Berhalter switches it up again in the final, given Miazga was at least fine to good in this game.
What's the back line you're going with, Charlie? Put you on the spot. What are you rolling with?
I'm going with Nick Lima, left back. I'm going with Aaron Long and Miazga, and I'm going to go right back, Reggie Cannon.
Why is that? Walk me through it.
I'm going to walk you through it. Reggie Cannon proved to me tonight that he can be the right back. He can get up and down. He can defend. Not the cleanest with his delivery, but you don't need him to do that. You just need him to defend. You need him to get up and down and be an outlet if needed. Tim Ream doesn't have the pace. He was eaten alive today, and he was bailed out because he had proper cover from Aaron Long, who is tremendous. I think when you look at what Aaron Long can do for a team, his ability to cover so much ground and his presence in the air, his ability on set pieces, attacking and defending, his growth has been immense in such a short amount of time, and I'm excited to see how much he can grow, how much he can continue to progress. And then Matt Miazga, for me, did enough tonight. And I've played firsthand against Matt Miazga. I know where he once was, and I've seen how much he's grown. He's good on the ball when given time, and I think that he's ready to take this next step. And Raul Jimenez is a much different challenge than Darren Maddox.
Oh, Darren Maddox, man.
Oh no, Darren, but it's a completely different game. You're having a striker now who knows where to position himself. He's very clever. He's lethal in the English Premier League, playing against the top defenders in the world.
He's got 5 goals in this tournament as well. Just put it out there.
Darren Maddox plays for Cincinnati, and they're hot right now.
Yeah, there you go. But this is one of those times where I look at Matt Miazga, and he's got the move to Chelsea, and it hasn't panned out yet. But this could be his springboard. This could be his platform to show, you know what, I'm ready to be a central defender for the U.S. men's national team and move on. And a big performance against Mexico, and they win the Gold Cup, well, that's a start.
That's an awesome point. Miazga has more to gain. In club limbo again, he puts up a good performance against a Premier League striker, shows off his talents to the world market.
For sure, and he's also had a very good game against Mexico in the past. The friendly, the friendly last year.
What are you looking for? Yeah.
He was good in that game. So, I mean, there is an argument for Miazga. I'm still sticking with Zimmerman. I just think he's a better soccer player right now.
All right, we got the final that we wanted here. U.S. and Mexico pre- and post-game show, always Club and Country right here, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app, Twitter and Facebook. Charlie, Matt, Lori, Lindsay, former U.S. women's national team midfielder, will join me here on set to break it all down, get you the lineups pregame, and we hope break down a U.S. win in the postgame. Would be their 7th Gold Cup title all time to match Mexico, who already have 7. Now let's go right out to Nashville. Susanna Collins is standing by with our AT&T call to the field. She is with Stu Holden.
All right, Stu, this game had a little bit of everything. We had 100.
What time is it?
I know, exactly. 128-minute rain delay. The U.S. get the 3-1 win, though, after a really physical match. You had tweeted that the first 15 minutes of this match was the best that you had seen them play. What did you like about this U.S. performance tonight?
The first... Yeah, that's Omar Gonzalez. Super fan. I loved in the first 15 minutes. I think just the little adjustment seeing from this game to the last game where it was really flat and static and there was no connectivity. And the way that they pressed Jamaica a little bit higher up the field, it set their line of pressure. It just sent their intent for the game. And then I really liked Weston McKennie tonight. I thought he was excellent, just all over the field. His positioning, dropping deeper, his passing. Michael Bradley I thought was good. Christian Pulisic, what else can you say? I'm running out of things to say about this guy because he really is, when he wants to and when he's playing like that and he's confident, he's on another level. And for Josie Altidore today, I thought it was a big performance because some were saying, oh, is Jesse's the starter? Is Josie the starter? Greg Berhalter gave Josie the start tonight, and he showed why. Just he has a different gear in his passing and his hold-up play, and I would bet a lot of money he'll be starting in the final against Mexico.
We shall see. Let's talk a little bit about this lightning delay that we had. 128 minutes. These guys had to go back into the locker room. When that type of delay happens, and the U.S. were rolling at that point, how does it affect both teams? What did you see out there? How did they react?
We were actually saying this on the broadcast. It served a better purpose for Jamaica than the United States, because the United States were all over them. Jamaica were a team that was up against the ropes, that were just taking punches left and right, and they're, how do we stay in this fight? How do we stay in this fight? You know how you stay in this fight? You get a lightning delay. And you go in the locker room, and Theodore Whitmore made a couple changes. He went man-to-man in the middle. He was man-marking Michael Bradley with Darren Maddox. The United States then struggled for 10-15 minutes to really find a way through that until the end of the half. They started to move off the ball. They started to get the ball wide. And then the second half, Greg Berhalter made a couple changes as well that really swung it back in the U.S. favor. So while it was nervous for a little while at 2-1 and you're a little on edge, are they going to finish this one out? They finished the game well, and they looked strong. Pulisic once again, 3-1 onto the final. U.S.-Mexico, it doesn't get any better.
U.S.-Mexico, you know a little something about that. I don't want to bring up 09, Stu. I know. But knowing how big this rivalry is, what this could mean for the United States, how did they get it done against a very good Mexico side?
And I think Charlie's in studio tonight. He was with us in 09, and then he decided to take an airplane back to Europe and skipped out on the semis and the final. Oh, wait, could have used you that night, but 5-0 wasn't a good night in my soccer career. But these games, and I'm just seeing some of the players walk past us in the tunnel and just going up to guys that haven't been a part of it, and I'm like, just enjoy Sunday. This is why we do this. This is why, as a player, you look forward to these games. You want to play on the biggest nights. There's no bigger night. The U.S. against Mexico, I think the midfield battle is huge. You have a guy like Alvarez, Guardado, Jonathan Dos Santos against Pulisic, McKennie, Bradley. You're going to lean on guys with experience. Michael Bradley's important. Josie Altidore is important. And then, Zach Steffen, once again, he's going to be called upon. What are the center backs like? I mean, there's so many fascinating matchups. Tata versus Greg. Bring it on. Let's go. Sunday, Chicago. We'll see you there.
Let's go. We will see you there. Stu, thank you so much. You're the best.
Nobody's bailing on this one early, huh, Charlie?
Oh, no.
Just taking off.
No.
Just couldn't be bobothered to stick around for that final in 09, huh? Not for me.
Some things come up, you have to take a flight and sign a contract, but we'll leave it at that.
Hey, man, Stu would understand that as well. This is a massive, massive game. The U.S. and Mexico, July 7th, a huge day for soccer around the world, the Gold Cup final. Smashed in there with the Copa America final, and of course, the Women's World Cup final, the U.S. and the Netherlands facing off in that one. The Mexico and U.S. taking it on in the final for the 6th time. Here are the 5 other meetings in the Gold Cup final. Not as many as you would think, to be honest, because everybody talks about this tournament as like, oh, it's preordained, U.S. and Mexico in the final. That's what always happens. Well, the U.S. or Mexico basically always win it, but they don't always meet in the final. Now, I think the one that we're going to focus on here is going to be 2007. That's because at least one of us was there. Charlie, you were, and we all remember this goal.
What
Bam.
a golazo to win it. The game winner, Benny Feilhaber. And I remember the crowd just erupting. It was like an avalanche just coming down, and there was no better feeling than beating the Mexican team, and how much trash talk was talked before the game and during the game. And this goal was fantastic. One for the ages.
The two-handed kiss. I will always remember that. A great celebration from Benny Feilhaber. U.S. trying to make it 2 from 6 in Gold Cup finals against Mexico. It's Tata versus Berhalter. We've seen that before in big games and in MLS Cup playoffs, by the way. That one went to PK. Zach Steffen stood on his head, and the crew went on. But other than that, it was all Tata in MLS. Now, you can talk about the discrepancy and the amount of investment, let's say, on the player side. But this coaching matchup, Matt, what are you looking for?
I think it is going to be like a very tactical, cerebral matchup. Tata takes notes. He proved that he's flexible last year with what he did with Atlanta. I would not, we're used to watching Mexico have 55-60% possession against the U.S. I would not be at all shocked if Tata came out and did a little bit of rope-a-dope and invited the U.S. forward and hit them on the counter. They have a couple of speedy wingers. They have fullbacks that they're not afraid to send forward. I would not be surprised at all if Tata had something like that up his sleeve.
What do you think Berhalter is going to be thinking?
He's got to keep doing the same thing because for Berhalter, yes, winning's important. You always want to have a trophy, but he has said over and over that he is taking his process very seriously, and he will prioritize continuing to pound home the philosophy he is building, little intricacies he's trying to implement over winning. So they obviously want to bring the trophy back, or to keep it in the United States, however you want to put it. But more important than that is continue to get better for the games down the road.
Looking ahead to this match, and I'm thinking about matchups and trying to kind of parse out what's most important and where we'll be watching during the game. And I just keep coming back to the midfield. And maybe it's because, Matt, you've been a broken record about pressure on the ball.
Yeah.
This Mexico team, more than any other team the U.S. has faced in this tournament, can tear them apart with the ball by moving the U.S. around and finding those gaps. So you look at Pulisic, McKinney, and Bradley. Can they handle that Mexican midfield?
It can't just be them. That's the thing, and that's the difference between what we saw tonight with the U.S. defensive shape versus what we saw against Curacao, because Curacao, just building from the back, was able to shift the U.S. around, and they would bring their wingers inside, and suddenly McKinney and Bradley were outnumbered 3-2 or 4-2. The U.S. has to be smarter than that. They have to be more willing to make adjustments. They also need both guys to play well. Michael Bradley was immense tonight. Weston McKennie had maybe his best game as a true box-to-box midfielder tonight. I thought he found the ball a lot, both defensively and in attack. That's the Weston that needs to show up. That's the Michael that needs to show up. That is the baseline. Once you go from that, you start making adjustments. The U.S. can do it. They've done it before. We've seen Mexico was not invincible in this one, but it's a tough test. It's literally the toughest test in the region.
That's the big game. U.S. and Mexico, Gold Cup final, going down on July 7th, Sunday. We will be here with the pregame and postgame. Before I let you guys get out of here, and yes, it is late. It's time for us to sleep, but not before I make you do extra time. Final thoughts, Charlie?
U.S. win 2-1. I think this is a game where, they figure it out. It starts from top to back when it comes to pressing and being in line and having the structure. If they all work together, they're going to win this game.
All right.
This is the big one. I mean, you can feel good about beating Trinidad. You can feel good about beating Jamaica, but you should beat them. You should dominate them. This is the one. This is the game of the tournament, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I mean, nothing different to say from that. The U.S. have to go out there. They have to play their best game. They've been slowly ramping it up as the quality of opponents have ramped up as well. This is the big one.
This is what Berhalter expected. Get to the final. Take on Mexico. Test yourself against the best club and country with the postgame show on July 7th. MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app, Twitter, and Facebook. Charlie Davies, Matt Doyle, Laura Lindsay, and myself. We will see you